So today, we're talking about a guy named Antoine-Laurent de Lavoisier. And look, he wasn't just some scientist. This is the man who basically invented modern chemistry. But, and this is a big but, his story takes a turn you will not see coming.
How's this for a twist? The father of modern chemistry lost his head. I mean, literally, to the guillotine. The big question is, how on earth does that happen? How does a brilliant scientist end up there? Well, that's what we're going to unpack. Okay, so to get to the bottom of this, we've got to go back to the beginning. Who was this guy? Before he was a revolutionary scientist, he was a man born into some serious privilege. He was born in Paris in 1743. His family was wealthy, his dad was a big-shot lawyer, and you gotta understand, this wasn't just a small advantage. This was the launchpad for his entire life. It meant he got the best education money could buy and could rub elbows with the brightest minds in all of France. And this is so important. See, back in the 1700s, science wasn't like it is today. There weren't huge government grants. If you wanted to do big, expensive experiments, you pretty much had to pay for it yourself. Lavoisier's family money meant he had the freedom to build an incredible lab and just do science without worrying about who was going to fund it.
And boy, did he put that lab to work. Look, there's a reason we call him the father of modern chemistry. He walked into a field that was basically, it was one step up from alchemy. It was full of these weird, mystical ideas, and he just tore it all down and rebuilt it with cold, hard facts and data. Okay, so for hundreds of years, everyone believed in this thing called the phlogiston theory. The idea was pretty simple. When you burn something, like a log, it gets lighter, right? It turns to ash. So the thinking was it must be releasing some kind of invisible, fiery stuff into the air. They called it phlogiston. Makes sense on the surface, right? Except it was totally, completely wrong. This is where Lavoisier comes in and just flips the whole thing upside down. He said, no. When something burns, it's not losing something, it's gaining something. It's actually combining with a gas from the air, a gas that he would eventually name, you guessed it, oxygen. But the really brilliant part is how he proved it. The guy was obsessed with measuring things. Absolutely meticulous. He'd take a substance, weigh it precisely, burn it inside a sealed glass jar, and then weigh everything again. And what did he find? The ash and gas inside actually weighed more than the original substance. Why? Because it had pulled oxygen out of the air in the jar. It was pure genius. This was data crushing an old accepted belief. And this obsession with weighing everything led him to his single greatest discovery, a law that is, and I'm not exaggerating, the absolute foundation of all modern chemistry, the law of conservation of mass. Matter is not created or destroyed. We learned this in middle school, but back then, this was a world-changing idea. And his method for proving it was just elegant in its simplicity. Step 1, weigh all your starting ingredients super carefully. Step 2, let the chemical reaction happen. Step 3, weigh all the stuff you ended up with. The conclusion, the final weight was always identical to the starting weight. It didn't matter if it changed color or turned from a solid to a gas. The amount of stuff was always the same. It just moved around. But Lavoisier knew that if you're going to build a new science, you can't use the old, confusing language. Before him, chemistry was a total mess of weird, archaic names. It was like everyone was speaking a different dialect. So he helped create a new, logical system, a universal language for chemistry. Names like oxygen, hydrogen, these come from him. Suddenly, scientists everywhere could actually understand each other. Okay, so this is where the story takes its dark turn. All these amazing experiments, this incredible lab, it all cost a fortune. And the way Lavoisier made his money, well, it's what got him killed. He had a side gig, a very lucrative one. He was what they called a tax farmer. Basically, a group of rich guys would pay the French king a huge pile of cash up front. In return, they got the right to go out and collect the country's taxes. And here's the kicker. Any money they collected above what they paid the king, they got to keep as profit. And you can see the problem here, right? It's a massive conflict of interest. On one side of the coin, this job gave him the money to make discoveries that changed the world for the better. But on the other side, to the average French person who was being squeezed for every penny, these tax farmers were the absolute villains. They were the face of a corrupt, unfair system.
Well, in 1789, all that anger and resentment just exploded. The French Revolution kicks off. And all of a sudden, Lavoisier's wealth and his powerful connections weren't an asset anymore. They were a target on his back. And things went downhill fast. The revolution entered its most brutal phase, the Reign of Terror. Basically, if you had any connection to the old monarchy, you were in deep, deep trouble. Lavoisier, along with all the other tax farmers, was rounded up. They were given a sham trial, and, the verdict was never really in doubt. They were declared enemies of the state. And the tragedy, the sheer waste of it all, was captured perfectly by his friend, the mathematician Lagrange. He said, "It took them only an instant to cut off that head, and 100 years may not suffice to produce another like it." Just, wow. In a fit of revolutionary rage, they'd executed one of the most brilliant scientific minds of the century. But here's the thing. You can kill a person, but you can't kill an idea. And Lavoisier's ideas were about to become more immortal than ever. What's so incredible is that his work isn't just locked away in some dusty old textbook. It's literally all around us. You've balanced a chemical equation in school? You can thank Lavoisier's law of conservation of mass for that. The very fact that we understand that we breathe in oxygen to power our bodies, that goes straight back to him. Maybe his biggest gift wasn't any single discovery at all. It was the way he did science. He basically gave chemistry its modern rule book: measure everything precisely, test your ideas with controlled experiments, and communicate clearly. He created the blueprint for how science should work. And that influence just ripples outward. Think about entire fields of science that didn't even exist when he was alive. Biochemistry, environmental science. They all stand on the foundation that he built. He didn't just give us answers. He taught us the right way to ask questions about the world. Now, the French government did eventually clear his name after he was dead, but we have to give huge credit to his wife, Marie-Anne. She was a brilliant scientist in her own right and his partner in the lab. After his execution, she's the one who fought to save all of his notes and lab journals from being destroyed. She published his final book, making sure his scientific revolution didn't die with him. When you look at his whole story, it's such a powerful reminder of one simple thing. Science doesn't happen in a bubble. It's tangled up in politics, money, and the society around it. It shows you how someone can be a hero in the lab, a true revolutionary, and at the same time become a victim of the revolution happening right outside his door. And that kind of leaves us with a big, thought-provoking question, doesn't it? Lavoisier took a scientific fact that everyone believed for centuries and proved it was nonsense. So it makes you wonder, what scientific truths that we take for granted right now will look just as silly as phlogiston to the people living 100 years from now?